Hello, 6th grade. This is Mrs. Risser. For today's lesson, we'll get started by reviewing globalization. According to your text, globalization is the development of a worldwide culture with an interdependent economy. Let's watch a quick video to help us with that concept.
Globalization is a widely discussed topic. It is therefore not all that easy to explain such a complicated term in simple words. Let's start from the beginning with a background to globalization. Advances in technology, such as mobile phones, aeroplanes, telephones, and the internet, have made the growth of transport and communication networks possible. Amongst other things, this means that people and countries can exchange information and goods more quickly and in a less complicated way. This process is called globalization. Globalization comes from globe and means the worldwide coming together of countries and nations.
Globalization is much more than just people being able to communicate worldwide. Check out this video to see a little bit more detail about exactly what globalization is.
What is globalization? Toyota cars are made by a Japanese corporation, but the chassis of the car are made in England, the engines in Wales, the tires in Japan, the wiring in China, the seatbelts in the Czech Republic, and the headlights in France. Like many goods that we're familiar with, these cars are manufactured in a number of different places in the world. This is an expression of globalization. In 1986, global trade reached a scope of approximately 2,000 billion US dollars, and 10 years later, it reached 5,200 billion US dollars. As a result of this 260% increase, foreign-made products that were rarely seen in countries around the world prior to globalization became a common sight. Globalization is much more than international trade, global chains, and cheap goods. Globalization is a process where countries around the world are becoming closer in a number of areas. It influences people, immigration, employment, ideas, and knowledge. 21% of Canadians were not born in Canada. 69% of Kuwaitis are foreigners, and factories of international companies are built in various places around the world, employing numerous workers. Many goods are manufactured and sold identically around the world. Globalization changes the face of society, is the source of demonstrations and revolutions, presents us with faraway cultures, and even allows us to pursue justice around the world. The main economic expression of globalization is international trade, and it brings knowledge within reach, enriches our knowledge, and expands it.
Globalization happens because of cultural diffusion, but it is not the exact same thing as cultural diffusion. Cultural diffusion, which we learned about in a previous lesson, is the process of spreading ideas, languages, or customs from one culture to another. The fact that you can eat Chinese food here in America, or McDonald's in China, or watch SpongeBob in French, and that people all over the world enjoy Harry Potter are all examples of cultural diffusion. Globalization takes it one step further in that not only do you enjoy other cultures' products, but now you come to expect those items. Because of that, countries will rely on one another for resources. For example, many countries can't produce wheat. The United States is a major world producer of wheat, which means we can make breads, cereals, and pastas. We send those products to countries that can't grow wheat, and they depend on these products as an important source of food. When they buy those products from us, our economy becomes stronger. They rely on us for the food, and we rely on them for the money they spend on the food. We've now become interdependent with those countries. Pause this podcast to read about globalization using the globalization doc provided for you on Google Classroom. It will look like this once you have it open. Once done, press play to continue this podcast. Now that you've read about what globalization is and a little bit about the history of globalization, it's time to read about the positive effects of globalization. Before you read this segment of your doc, please take some time to think about what you believe could be some positive effects of globalization. Once you're ready, pause this video and read that portion of the article. And then once you're done reading the article, you may press play and continue this video. Now that you've read about the positive effects, it's time to consider the negative effects. Before you read that portion of the doc, take a couple moments to think what could be some negative effects of the world going global. Once you've thought of some ideas, continue on reading the article and pause this video first. Once you've completed the article, you may press play again because we have a short video clip to follow. Globalization can harm the cultures of small countries. Let's watch this short video to see how globalization and the spread of culture has affected the small country of Bhutan.
Until recently, Bhutan's only set of traffic lights were at this junction, but people didn't like them, so the dancing policeman has been restored. As this Himalayan kingdom prepares for democracy, though, there are fears that with globalization, there can be no going back.
Reaction has been one of concern because anything that is untested and is not known to the people, they have anxiety.
40 years ago, Bhutan was effectively a closed country, but having decided to open up, some now want to put the brakes on. Aspects of Western life have been enthusiastically embraced. Indeed, it was fascination with international football that led the government, a little reluctantly, to allow television into Bhutan in 1999. But revealing the world beyond the mountains has changed the character of Bhutan. This family used to eat and talk together. Now it's TV dinners in front of the box. Grandmother told me how she loves Hindi soap operas and now spends almost every evening watching TV. Such is her obsession that she forgets to cook and feels guilty at neglecting her prayers. TV companies have just taken the decision to ban some of the 40 channels beamed into Bhutan. The wrestling channel, for one, was deemed an unhealthy influence. Government, too, is anxious to keep consumerism under control. In the high street, only traditional advertising is allowed. And you won't find big hoardings for cigarettes either. Selling tobacco is now a crime. And at the local police station, constables proudly show off contraband tobacco.
Sometimes we wonder as to, when we look at the industrialized world, when we look at the developed world, whether there is, in fact, an advancement in terms of civilization, or whether there has been a decivilization.
Bhutan is undergoing rapid cultural change. Schoolboys who might once have studied the path of inner peace and tranquility at the monastery can now be found at the internet cafe, shooting and killing in cyberspace. Along with the software, some argue Bhutan is downloading a virus, a Trojan horse filled with Western consumerist values that will one day destroy all that makes this country unique. But globalization also promises knowledge, wealth, and international friendship, all of which this fragile, beautiful land desperately needs.
So what are some of the negative aspects that you were able to view in the video? Take a moment to think about how this culture changed because Western culture made its way once this country opened up to that culture. So now it's time to think about whether or not you believe globalization is a positive or a negative.